Exodus chapters 27 through 35 of the Bible, Douay Rheims, 1899 American edition. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 27. Thou shalt make also an altar of setim wood, which shall be 5 cubits long, and as many broad, that is, 4 and 3 cubits high. And there shall be horns at the 4 corners of the same, and thou shalt cover it with brass. And thou shalt make for the uses thereof pans to receive the ashes, and tongs, and flesh hooks, and fire pans. All its vessels thou shalt make of brass. And a grate of brass, in manner of a net, at the 4 corners of which shall be 4 rings of brass, which thou shalt put under the hearth of the altar, and the grate shall be even to the midst of the altar. Thou shalt make also 2 bars for the altar of setim wood, which thou shalt cover with plates of brass. And thou shalt draw them through rings, and they shall be on both sides of the altar to carry it. Thou shalt not make it solid, but empty and hollow in the inside, as it was shown thee in the mount. Thou shalt make also the court of the tabernacle in the south side, whereof southward there shall be hangings of fine twisted linen of 100 cubits long for one side, and 20 pillars with as many sockets of brass, the heads of which with their engraving of silver. In like manner also on the north side there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long, 20 pillars, and as many sockets of brass, and their heads with their engraving of silver. But in the breadth of the court that looketh to the west, there shall be hangings of 50 cubits, and 10 pillars, and as many sockets. In that breadth also of the court which looketh to the east, there shall be 50 cubits, in which there shall be for one side hangings of 15 cubits, and 3 pillars, and as many sockets. And in the other side there shall be hangings of 15 cubits, with 3 pillars, and as many sockets. And in the entrance of the court there shall be made a hanging of 20 cubits of violet, and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine twisted linen, with embroidered work. It shall have 4 pillars with as many sockets. All the pillars of the court round about shall be garnished with plates of silver, silver heads, and sockets of brass. In length the court shall take up 100 cubits, in breadth 50. The height shall be of 5 cubits, and it shall be made of fine twisted linen, and shall have sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle for all uses and ceremonies, and the pins both of it and of the court, thou shalt make of brass. Command the children of Israel that they bring thee the purest oil of the olives, and beaten with a pestle, that a lamp may burn always in the tabernacle of the testimony, without the veil that hangs before the testimony. And Aaron and his sons shall order it, that it may give light before the Lord until the morning. It shall be a perpetual observance throughout their successions among the children of Israel. End of chapter 27. Chapter 28. Take unto thee also Aaron thy brother with his sons from among the children of Israel, that they may minister to me in the priest's office, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. And thou shalt make a holy vesture for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt speak to all the wise of heart, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's vestments, in which he being consecrated may minister to me. And these shall be the vestments that they shall make: a rational, and an ephod, a tunic, and a straight linen garment, a mitre, and a girdle. They shall make the holy vestments for thy brother Aaron and his sons, that they may do the office of priesthood unto me. And they shall take gold, and violet, and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine linen. And they shall make the ephod of gold, and violet, and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine twisted linen, embroidered with divers colours. It shall have the two edges joined in the top on both sides, that they may be closed together. The very workmanship also, and all the variety of the work, shall be of gold, and violet, and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine twisted linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and shalt grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 names on one stone, and the other 6 on the other, according to the order of their birth. With the work of an engraver and the graving of a jeweler, thou shalt engrave them with the names of the children of Israel, set in gold and compassed about, and thou shalt put them in both sides of the ephod, a memorial for the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon both shoulders for a remembrance. Thou shalt make also hooks of gold, and 2 little chains of the purest gold, linked one to another, which thou shalt put into the hooks. And thou shalt make the rational of judgment with embroidered work of divers colours, according to the workmanship of the ephod, of gold, violet, and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine twisted linen. It shall be foursquare and doubled. It shall be the measure of a span, both in length and in breadth. And thou shalt set in it 4 rows of stones. In the first row shall be a sardius stone, and a topaz, and an emerald. In the second, a carbuncle, a sapphire, and a jasper. In the third, a lyncurius, an agate, and an amethyst. In the fourth, a chrysolite, an onyx, and a beryl. They shall be set in gold by their rows. And they shall have the names of the children of Israel. With 12 names shall they be engraved, each stone with the name of one according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make on the rational chains linked one to another of the purest gold, and 2 rings of gold, which thou shalt put in the 2 ends at the top of the rational. And the golden chains thou shalt join to the rings that are in the ends thereof, and the ends of the chains themselves thou shalt join together with 2 hooks on both sides of the ephod, which is towards the rational. Thou shalt make also 2 rings of gold, which thou shalt put in the top parts of the rational, in the borders that are over against the ephod, and look towards the back parts thereof. Moreover also other 2 rings of gold, which are to be set on each side of the ephod beneath, that looketh towards the nether joining, that the rational may be fitted with the ephod, and may be fastened by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod, with a violet fillet, that the joining artificially wrought may continue, and the rational and the ephod may not be loosed one from the other. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the rational of judgment upon his breast, when he shall enter into the sanctuary, a memorial before the Lord forever. And thou shalt put in the rational of judgment doctrine and truth, which shall be on Aaron's breast, when he shall go in before the Lord, and he shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel on his breast in the sight of the Lord always. And thou shalt make the tunic of the ephod all of violet, in the midst whereof above shall be a hole for the head, and a border round about it woven, as is wont to be made in the outmost parts of garments, that it may not easily be broken. And beneath at the feet of the same tunic round about, thou shalt make as it were pomegranates, of violet and purple and scarlet twice dyed, with little bells set between, so that there shall be a golden bell and a pomegranate, and again another golden bell and a pomegranate. And Aaron shall be vested with it in the office of his ministry, that the sound may be heard when he goeth in and cometh out of the sanctuary in the sight of the Lord, and that he may not die. Thou shalt make also a plate of the purest gold, wherein thou shalt grave with engraver's work, Holy to the Lord. And thou shalt tie it with a violet fillet, and it shall be upon the mitre, hanging over the forehead of the high priest. And Aaron shall bear the iniquities of those things which the children of Israel have offered and sanctified in all their gifts and offerings. And the plate shall be always on his forehead, that the Lord may be well pleased with them. And thou shalt gird the tunic with fine linen, and thou shalt make a fine linen mitre, and a girdle of embroidered work. Moreover, for the sons of Aaron thou shalt prepare linen tunics, and girdles and mitres for glory and beauty, and with all these things thou shalt vest Aaron thy brother and his sons with him. And thou shalt consecrate the hands of them all, and shalt sanctify them, that they may do the office of priesthood unto me. Thou shalt make also linen breeches, to cover the flesh of their nakedness from the reins to the thighs. And Aaron and his sons shall use them when they shall go in to the tabernacle of the testimony, or when they approach the altar to minister in the sanctuary, lest being guilty of iniquity they die. It shall be a law for ever to Aaron, and to his seed after him. End of chapter 28. Chapter 29. And thou shalt also do this, that they may be consecrated to me in priesthood. Take a calf from the herd, and 2 rams without blemish, and unleavened bread, and a cake without leaven, tempered with oil, wafers also unleavened, anointed with oil. Thou shalt make them all of wheaten flour. And thou shalt put them in a basket, and offer them, and the calf, and the 2 rams. And thou shalt bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tabernacle of the testimony. And when thou hast washed the father and his sons with water, thou shalt clothe Aaron with his vestments, that is, with the linen garment and the tunic, and the ephod and the rational, which thou shalt gird with the girdle. And thou shalt put the mitre upon his head, and the holy plate upon the mitre, and thou shalt pour the oil of unction upon his head, and by this rite shall he be consecrated. Thou shalt bring his sons also, and shalt put on them the linen tunics, and gird them with a girdle, to wit, Aaron and his children, and thou shalt put mitres upon them, and they shall be priests to me by a perpetual ordinance. After thou shalt have consecrated their hands, thou shalt present also the calf before the tabernacle of the testimony. And Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon his head, and thou shalt kill him in the sight of the Lord, beside the door of the tabernacle of the testimony. And taking some of the blood of the calf, thou shalt put it upon the horns of the altar with thy finger, and the rest of the blood thou shalt pour at the bottom thereof. Thou shalt take also all the fat that covereth the entrails, and the caul of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and shalt offer a burnt offering upon the altar. But the flesh of the calf, and the hide, and the dung, thou shalt burn abroad without the camp, because it is for sin. Thou shalt take also 1 ram upon the head whereof Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands. And when thou hast killed him, thou shalt take of the blood thereof, and pour round about the altar. And thou shalt cut the ram in pieces, and having washed his entrails and feet, thou shalt put them upon the flesh that is cut in pieces, and upon his head. And thou shalt offer the whole ram for a burnt offering upon the altar. It is an oblation to the Lord, a most sweet savour of the victim of the Lord. Thou shalt take also the other ram, upon whose head Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands. And when thou hast sacrificed him, thou shalt take of his blood, and put upon the tip of the right ear of Aaron and of his sons, and upon the thumbs and great toes of their right hand and foot, and thou shalt pour the blood upon the altar round about. And when thou hast taken of the blood that is upon the altar, and of the oil of unction, thou shalt sprinkle Aaron and his vesture, his sons and their vestments. And after they and their vestments are consecrated, thou shalt take the fat of the ram, and the rump, and the fat that covereth the lungs, and the caul of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and the right shoulder, because it is the ram of consecration, and 1 roll of bread, a cake tempered with oil, a wafer out of the basket of unleavened bread, which is set in the sight of the Lord. And thou shalt put all upon the hands of Aaron and of his sons, and shalt sanctify them, elevating before the Lord. And thou shalt take all from their hands, and shalt burn them upon the altar for a holocaust, a most sweet savour in the sight of the Lord, because it is his oblation. Thou shalt take also the breast of the ram, wherewith Aaron was consecrated, and elevating it thou shalt sanctify it before the Lord, and it shall fall to thy share. And thou shalt sanctify both the consecrated breast and the shoulder that thou didst separate of the ram, wherewith Aaron was consecrated, and his sons, and they shall fall to Aaron's share, and his sons, by a perpetual right from the children of Israel, because they are the choicest, and the beginnings of their peace victims which they offer to the Lord. And the holy vesture which Aaron shall use, his sons shall have after him, that they may be anointed, and their hands consecrated to it. He of his sons that shall be appointed high priest in his stead, and that shall enter into the tabernacle of the testimony to minister in the sanctuary, shall wear it 7 days. And thou shalt take the ram of the consecration, and shalt boil the flesh thereof in the holy place, and Aaron and his sons shall eat it. The loaves also that are in the basket they shall eat in the entry of the tabernacle of the testimony, that it may be an atoning sacrifice, and the hands of the offerers may be sanctified. A stranger shall not eat of them, because they are holy. And if there remain of the consecrated flesh, or of the bread till the morning, thou shalt burn the remainder with fire. They shall not be eaten, because they are sanctified. All that I have commanded thee, thou shalt do unto Aaron and his sons. 7 days shalt thou consecrate their hands, and thou shalt offer a calf for sin every day for expiation, and thou shalt cleanse the altar when thou hast offered the victim of expiation, and shalt anoint it to sanctify it. 7 days shalt thou expiate the altar, and sanctify it, and it shall be most holy. Every one that shall touch it shall be holy. This is what thou shalt sacrifice upon the altar: 2 lambs of a year old every day continually, 1 lamb in the morning, and another in the evening. With 1 lamb, 1/10 part of flour, tempered with beaten oil, of the 4th part of a hin, and wine for libation of the same measure. And the other lamb thou shalt offer in the evening, according to the rite of the morning oblation, and according to what we have said, for a savour of sweetness. It is a sacrifice to the Lord by perpetual oblation unto your generations, at the door of the tabernacle of the testimony before the Lord, where I will appoint to speak unto thee. And there will I command the children of Israel, and the altar shall be sanctified by my glory. I will sanctify also the tabernacle of the testimony with the altar, and Aaron with his sons, to do the office of priesthood unto me. And I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, who have brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I might abide among them, I, the Lord their God. End of chapter 29. Chapter 30. Thou shalt make also an altar to burn incense of setim wood. It shall be a cubit in length, and another in breadth, that is, foursquare, and 2 in height. Horns shall go out of the same. And thou shalt overlay it with the purest gold, as well as the grate thereof, as the walls round about, and the horns. And thou shalt make to it a crown of gold round about, and 2 golden rings under the crown on either side, that the bars may be put into them, and the altar be carried. And thou shalt make the bars also of setim wood, and shalt overlay them with gold. And thou shalt set the altar over against the veil that hangeth before the ark of the testimony, before the propitiatory, wherewith the testimony is covered, where I will speak to thee. And Aaron shall burn sweet-smelling incense upon it in the morning. When he shall dress the lamps, he shall burn it. And when he shall place them in the evening, he shall burn an everlasting incense before the Lord throughout your generations. You shall not offer upon it incense of another composition, nor oblation, and victim, neither shall you offer libations. And Aaron shall pray upon the horns thereof once a year, with the blood of that which was offered for sin, and shall make atonement upon it in your generations. It shall be most holy to the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, When thou shalt take the sum of the children of Israel, according to their number, every one of them shall give a price for their souls to the Lord, and there shall be no scourge among them when they shall be reckoned. And this shall every one give that passeth at the naming, half a sickle, according to the standard of the temple. A sickle hath 20 obols. Half a sickle shall be offered to the Lord. He that is counted in the number from 20 years and upwards shall give the price. The rich man shall not add to half a sickle, and the poor man shall diminish nothing. And the money received, which was contributed by the children of Israel, thou shalt deliver unto the uses of the tabernacle of the testimony, that it may be a memorial of them before the Lord, and he may be merciful to their souls. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Thou shalt make also a brazen laver with its foot to wash in, and thou shalt set it between the tabernacle of the testimony and the altar, and water being put into it, Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and feet in it, when they are going into the tabernacle of the testimony, and when they are to come to the altar to offer on it incense to the Lord, lest perhaps they die. It shall be an everlasting law to him and to his seed by successions. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take spices, of principal and chosen myrrh 500 sickles, and of cinnamon half so much, that is, 250 sickles, of calamus in like manner 250, and of cassia 500 sickles by the weight of the sanctuary, of oil of olives the measure hin. And thou shalt make the holy oil of unction, an ointment compounded after the art of the perfumer, and therewith thou shalt anoint the tabernacle of the testimony, and the ark of the testament, and the table with the vessels thereof, the candlestick and furniture thereof, the altars of incense, and of holocaust, and all the furniture that belongeth to the service of them. And thou shalt sanctify all, and they shall be most holy. He that shall touch them shall be sanctified. Thou shalt anoint Aaron and his sons, and shalt sanctify them, that they may do the office of priesthood unto me. And thou shalt say to the children of Israel, This oil of unction shall be holy unto me throughout your generations. The flesh of man shall not be anointed therewith, and you shall make none other of the same composition, because it is sanctified, and shall be holy unto you. What man soever shall compound such, and shall give thereof to a stranger, he shall be cut off from his people. And the Lord said to Moses, Take unto these spices, stacte and onycha, galbanum of sweet savour, and the clearest frankincense, all shall be of equal weight. And thou shalt make incense compounded by the work of the perfumer, well tempered together and pure, and most worthy of sanctification. And when thou hast beaten all into very small powder, thou shalt set of it before the tabernacle of the testimony, in the place where I will appear to thee. Most holy shall this incense be to you. You shall not make such a composition for your own uses, because it is holy to the Lord. What man soever shall make the like, to enjoy the smell thereof, he shall perish out of his people. End of chapter 30. Chapter 31. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Behold, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom and understanding, and knowledge in all manner of work, to devise whatsoever may be artificially made of gold, and silver, and brass, of marble, and precious stones, and variety of wood. And I have given him for his companion Oholiab, the son of Achizamech, of the tribe of Dan. And I have put wisdom in the heart of every skillful man, that they may make all things which I have commanded thee, the tabernacle of the covenant, and the ark of the testimony, and the propitiatory that is over it, and all the vessels of the tabernacle, and the table, and the vessels thereof, the most pure candlestick, with the vessels thereof, and the altars of incense, and of holocaust, and all their vessels, the laver with its foot, the holy vestments in the ministry for Aaron the priest, and for his sons, that they may execute their office about the sacred things, the oil of unction, and the incense of spices in the sanctuary, all things which I have commanded thee shall they make. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and thou shalt say to them, See that thou keep my Sabbath, because it is a sign between me and you in your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctify you. Keep you my Sabbath, for it is holy unto you. He that shall profane it shall be put to death. He that shall do my work in it, his soul shall perish out of the midst of his people. 6 days shall you do work. In the 7th day is the Sabbath, the rest holy to the Lord. Every one that shall do any work on this day shall die. Let the children of Israel keep the Sabbath, and celebrate it in their generations. It is an everlasting covenant between me and the children of Israel, and a perpetual sign. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and in the 7th he ceased from work. And the Lord, when he had ended these words in Mount Sinai, gave to Moses 2 stone tables of testimony, written with the finger of God. End of chapter 31. Chapter 32. And the people, seeing that Moses delayed to come down from the mount, gathering together against Aaron, said, Arise, make us gods, that may go before us. For as to this Moses, the man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has befallen him. And Aaron said to them, Take the golden earrings from the ears of your wives, and your sons and daughters, and bring them to me. And the people did what he had commanded, bringing the earrings to Aaron. And when he had received them, he fashioned them by a founder's work, and made of them a molten calf. And they said, These are thy gods, O Israel, that have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and made proclamation by a crier's voice, saying, Tomorrow is the solemnity of the Lord. And rising in the morning, they offered holocausts and peace victims. And the people sat down to eat and drink, and they rose up to play. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Go, get thee down. Thy people, which thou hast brought out of the land of Egypt, hath sinned. They have quickly strayed from the way which thou didst show them, and they have made to themselves a molten calf, and have adored it, and sacrificing victims to it, have said, These are thy gods, O Israel, that have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And again the Lord said to Moses, See that this people is stiff-necked. Let me alone, that my wrath may be kindled against them, and that I may destroy them, and I will make of thee a great nation. But Moses besought the Lord his God, saying, Why, O Lord, is thy indignation kindled against thy people, whom thou hast brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Let not the Egyptians say, I beseech thee, he craftily brought them out, that he might kill them in the mountains, and destroy them from the earth. Let thy anger cease, and be appeased upon the wickedness of thy people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou sworest by thy own self, saying, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and this whole land that I have spoken of I will give to your seed, and you shall possess it forever. And the Lord was appeased from doing the evil which he had spoken against his people. And Moses returned from the mount, carrying the 2 tables of the testimony in his hand, written on both sides, and made by the work of God. The writing also of God was graven in the tables. And Joshua, hearing the noise of the people shouting, said to Moses, The noise of battle is heard in the camp. But he answered, It is not the cry of men encouraging to fight, nor the shout of men compelling to flee, but I hear the voice of singers. And when he came nigh to the camp, he saw the calf, and the dances, and being very angry, he threw the tables out of his hand, and broke them at the foot of the mount. And laying hold of the calf which they had made, he burnt it, and beat it to powder, which he strode into water, and gave thereof to the children of Israel to drink. And he said to Aaron, What has this people done to thee, that thou shouldest bring upon them a most heinous sin? And he answered him, Let not my lord be offended, for thou knowest this people, that they are prone to evil. They said to me, Make us gods that may go before us. For as to this Moses, who brought us forth out of the land of Egypt, we know not what has befallen him. And I said to them, Which of you hath any gold? And they took and brought it to me, and I cast it into the fire, and this calf came out. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had stripped them by occasion of the shame of the filth, and had set them naked among their enemies, then standing in the gate of the camp, he said, If any man be on the Lord's side, let him join with me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said to them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Put every man his sword upon his thigh. Go and return from gate to gate through the midst of the camp, and let every man kill his brother and friend and neighbor. And the sons of Levi did according to the words of Moses. And there were slain that day about 23,000 men. And Moses said, You have consecrated your hands this day to the Lord, every man in his son and in his brother, that a blessing may be given to you. And when the next day was come, Moses spoke to the people, You have sinned a very great sin. I will go up to the Lord, if by any means I may be able to entreat him for your crime. And returning to the Lord, he said, I beseech thee, this people hath sinned a heinous sin, and they have made to themselves gods of gold. Either forgive them this trespass, or if thou do not, strike me out of the book that thou hast written. And the Lord answered him, He that hath sinned against me, him will I strike out of my book. But go thou, and lead this people whither I have told thee. My angel shall go before thee, and I in the day of revenge will visit this sin also of theirs. The Lord therefore struck the people for the guilt on occasion of the calf which Aaron had made. End of chapter 32. Chapter 33. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Go, get thee up from this place, thou and thy people, which thou hast brought out of the land of Egypt, into the land concerning which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, To thy seed I will give it. And I will send an angel before thee, that I may cast out the Canaanite, and the Amorite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, that thou mayst enter into the land that floweth with milk and honey. For I will not go up with thee, because thou art a stiff-necked people, lest I destroy thee in the way. And the people hearing these very bad tidings mourned, and no man put on his ornaments according to custom. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to the children of Israel, Thou art a stiff-necked people. Once I shall come up in the midst of thee, and shall destroy thee. Now presently lay aside thy ornaments, that I may know what to do with thee. So the children of Israel laid aside their ornaments by Mount Horeb. Moses also, taking the tabernacle, pitched it without the camp afar off, and called the name thereof the tabernacle of the covenant. And all the people that had any question went forth to the tabernacle of the covenant without the camp. And when Moses went forth to the tabernacle, all the people rose up, and every one stood in the door of his pavilion, and they beheld the back of Moses till he went into the tabernacle. And when he was gone into the tabernacle of the covenant, the pillar of the cloud came down, and stood at the door, and he spoke with Moses. And all saw that the pillar of the cloud stood at the door of the tabernacle, and they stood and worshipped at the doors of their tents. And the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man is wont to speak to his friend. And when he returned into the camp, his servant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, departed not from the tabernacle. And Moses said to the Lord, Thou commandest me to lead forth this people, and thou dost not let me know whom thou wilt send with me, especially whereas thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast found favor in my sight. If therefore I have found favor in thy sight, show me thy face, that I may know thee, and may find grace before thy eyes. Look upon thy people, this nation. And the Lord said, My face shall go before thee, and I will give thee rest. And Moses said, If thou thyself dost not go before, bring us not out of this place. For how shall we be able to know, I and thy people, that we have found grace in thy sight, unless thou walk with us, that we may be glorified by all people that dwell upon the earth? And the Lord said to Moses, This word also which thou hast spoken will I do, for thou hast found grace before me, and thee I have known by name. And he said, Show me thy glory. He answered, I will show thee all good, and I will proclaim in the name of the Lord before thee, and I will have mercy on whom I will, and I will be merciful to whom it shall please me. And again he said, Thou canst not see my face, for man shall not see me and live. And again he said, Behold, there is a place with me, and thou shalt stand upon the rock. And when my glory shall pass, I will set thee in a hole of the rock, and protect thee with my right hand till I pass. And I will take away my hand, and thou shalt see my back parts, but my face thou canst not see. End of chapter 33. Chapter 34. And after this he said, Hew thee 2 tables of stone, like unto the former, and I will write upon them the words which were in the tables which thou brokest. Be ready in the morning, that thou mayst forthwith go up into Mount Sinai, and thou shalt stand with me upon the top of the mount. Let no man go up with thee, and let not any man be seen throughout all the mount, neither let the oxen nor the sheep feed over against it. Then he cut out 2 tables of stone, such as had been before, and rising very early he went up into the Mount Sinai, as the Lord had commanded him, carrying with him the tables. And when the Lord was come down in a cloud, Moses stood with him, calling upon the name of the Lord. And when he passed before him, he said, O the Lord God, merciful and gracious, patient and of much compassion and true, who keepest mercy unto thousands, who takest away iniquity, and wickedness, and sin, and no man of himself is innocent before thee, who renderest the iniquity of the fathers to the children, and to the grandchildren unto the third and fourth generation. And Moses, making haste, bowed down prostrate unto the earth, and adoring said, If I have found grace in thy sight, O Lord, I beseech thee that thou wilt go with us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and take away our iniquities and sin, and possess us. The Lord answered, I will make a covenant in the sight of all. I will do signs such as were never seen upon the earth, nor in any nation, that this people, in the midst of whom thou art, may see the terrible work of the Lord which I will do. Observe all things which this day I command thee. I myself will drive out before thy face the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Beware thou never join in friendship with the inhabitants of that land, which may be thy ruin, but destroy their altars, break their statues, and cut down their groves. Adore not any strange god. The Lord his name is jealous. He is a jealous God. Make no covenant with the men of those countries, lest, when they have committed fornication with their gods, and have adored their idols, someone call thee to eat of the things sacrificed. Neither shalt thou take of their daughters a wife for thy son, lest after they themselves have committed fornication, they make thy sons also to commit fornication with their gods. Thou shalt not make to thyself any molten gods. Thou shalt keep the feast of the unleavened bread. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee in the time of the month of the new corn. For in the month of the springtime thou camest out from Egypt. All of the male kind that openeth the womb shall be mine. Of all beasts, both of oxen and of sheep, it shall be mine. The firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a sheep. But if thou wilt not give a price for it, it shall be slain. The firstborn of thy sons thou shalt redeem. Neither shalt thou appear before me empty. 6 days shalt thou work, the 7th day thou shalt cease to plow and to reap. Thou shalt keep the feast of weeks with the firstfruits of the corn of thy wheat harvest, and the feast when the time of the year returneth, that all things are laid in. 3 times in a year all thy males shall appear in the sight of the Almighty Lord, the God of Israel. For when I shall have taken away the nations from thy face, and shall have enlarged thy borders, no man shall lie in wait against thy land, when thou shalt go up and appear in the sight of the Lord thy God thrice in a year. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice upon leaven, neither shall there remain in the morning any thing of the victim of the solemnity of the Lord. The first of the fruits of thy ground thou shalt offer in the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not boil a kid in the milk of his dam. And the Lord said to Moses, Write these words by which I have made a covenant, both with thee and with Israel. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water, and he wrote upon the tables the 10 words of the covenant. And when Moses came down from the Mount Sinai, he held the 2 tables of the testimony, and he knew not that his face was horned from the conversation of the Lord. And Aaron and the children of Israel, seeing the face of Moses horned, were afraid to come near. And being called by him, they returned, both Aaron and the rulers of the congregation. And after that he spoke to them. And all the children of Israel came to him, and he gave them in commandment all that he had heard of the Lord in Mount Sinai. And having done speaking, he put a veil upon his face. But when he went in to the Lord, and spoke with him, he took it away until he came forth. And then he spoke to the children of Israel all things that had been commanded him. And they saw that the face of Moses, when he came out, was horned, but he covered his face again, if at any time he spoke to them. End of chapter 34. Chapter 35. And all the multitude of the children of Israel being gathered together, he said to them, These are the things which the Lord hath commanded to be done. 6 days you shall do work. The 7th day shall be holy unto you, the Sabbath, and the rest of the Lord. He that shall do any work on it shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire in any of your habitations on the Sabbath day. And Moses said to all the assembly of the children of Israel, This is the word the Lord hath commanded, saying, Set aside with you first fruits to the Lord. Let every one that is willing and hath a ready heart offer them to the Lord, gold and silver and brass, violet and purple, and scarlet twice dyed, and fine linen, goat's hair, and rams' skins dyed red, and violet-colored skins, setim wood, and oil to maintain lights, and to make ointment, and most sweet incense, onyx stones, and precious stones for the adorning of the ephod and the rational. Whosoever of you is wise, let him come, and make that which the Lord hath commanded, to wit, the tabernacle, and the roof thereof, and the cover, the rings, and the board work with the oars, the pillars and the sockets, the ark and the staves, the propitiatory, and the veil that is drawn before it, the table with the bars and the vessels, and the loaves of proposition, the candlestick to bear up the lights, the vessels thereof, and the lamps, and the oil for the nourishing of fires, the altar of incense, and the bars, and the oil of unction, and the incense of spices, the hanging at the door of the tabernacle, the altar of holocaust, and its grate of brass, with the bars and vessels thereof, the laver and its foot, the curtains of the court with the pillars and the sockets, the hanging in the doors of the entry, the pins of the tabernacle and of the court with their little cords, the vestments that are to be used in the ministry of the sanctuary, the vesture of Aaron the high priest, and of his sons to do the office of priesthood to me. And all the multitude of the children of Israel, going out from the presence of Moses, offered firstfruits to the Lord, with a most ready and devout mind, to make the work of the tabernacle of the testimony. Whatsoever was necessary to the service and to the holy vestments, both men and women gave bracelets and earrings, rings and tablets. Every vessel of gold was set aside to be offered to the Lord. If any man had violet and purple and scarlet twice dyed, fine linen and goat's hair, rams' skins dyed red, and violet-colored skins, metal of silver and brass, they offered it to the Lord, and setim wood for divers uses. The skillful women also gave such things as they had spun, violet, purple, and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, giving all of their own accord. But the princes offered onyx stone, and precious stones for the ephod and the rational, and spices and oil for the lights, and for the preparing of ointment, and to make the incense of most sweet savour. All, both men and women, with devout mind, offered gifts that the works might be done which the Lord had commanded by the hand of Moses. All the children of Israel dedicated voluntary offerings to the Lord. And Moses said to the children of Israel, Behold, the Lord hath called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and hath filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom and understanding, and knowledge, and all learning, to devise and to work in gold and silver and brass, and in engraving stones, and in carpenter's work. Whatsoever can be devised artificially, he hath given in his heart. Oholiab also, the son of Achizamach, of the tribe of Dan. Both of them hath he instructed with wisdom, to do carpenter's work and tapestry, and embroidery in blue and purple and scarlet twice dyed, and fine linen, and to weave all things, and to invent all new things. End of chapter 35.